Good morning and welcome to today's live show. We will be getting into in the last 15 minutes of this video. These are on backwards. No, they're not. In the last part of this video, in the last about 15 minutes, if you're not watching this live, good morning, good morning, good morning. But if you're not watching this live, tune into the last 15 minutes because we go over every single stock that we cover at the end of these live videos. So look at the last 15 minutes here, and we're actually going to go through them real quick right now if you want to hang out for this little portion here. So the SPY looking like it's opening up, in an area we really have to pay attention to, the bottom of our daily expected move. So when you're opening up at the daily expected move, two things you want to look for: see if that's able to bottom out, see some kind of vertical recovery here. You don't necessarily want to gap below this area, because if you gap below, you can see that reaction off of it. You can start to use this as resistance, and then we can target the bottom of that weekly expected move for the SPY. Remember, this is all the options have priced in for the day. We still have that 68% chance to land in here. We've landed in this zone for a long time, so if we gap below it, we could use that as resistance and end outside of it, as we have been pretty good at landing in this zone. Okay, the Q is similar story, right? Gapping below. This is what you don't necessarily want to happen. This is where you can get that gamma flip. Someone was asking about, a call squeeze. This is the area where you can get squeezed to the call side. So we can see rapid selling come in as long as we hold probably below this 510. So the fact that the SPY is holding up a little bit, but the Qs, we can now see this breakdown, use that as resistance. That we'll pay attention to. We'll also look if we're seeing any divergences down here. Most likely, though, we might be coming down to test that weekly expected move. We do get services PMI, so we have to pay attention to that this morning. Apple, starting out, you can't even see it right now, but starting out 2.5% lower. Got to scroll down 170.66. I can tell you right now, this is outside of the range, so I am going to be looking for some kind of divergence down here early on in the morning. If PMI is good for the market, maybe we actually see some kind of bounce out of Apple, get that retest. But Apple's doing what we expect. It likes to come out of a zone, retest the bottom of it to the downside, right, with the bottom of it right here, and then we see that extend. So nothing surprising happening from Apple. Amazon starting to sell off. The thing with Amazon that I'm paying attention to, 2-hour chart, if that's able to roll over, we could react to somewhere around this 173 area, kind of down in this base, set up some kind of head and shoulders here like this in the near future. So that's what I'm really paying attention to with Amazon, but I'm still open to us going higher. And if we're going to head higher, then this is just going to be some pullback on the 30-minute. I'm going to see that cross to the upside. So we'll keep our eye on this. See if PMI is good for the market. Might mean Amazon has one more push. Might mean that Tesla can slow down on this breakdown, right? It's coming down to 182.93. Now, overall, we were saying in last night's video, watch out, because if this thing wants to keep curling over, keep going down, keep being negative in the trend here, we can head to 180.92 pretty quick. So 180.92 is where I'm paying attention to Tesla for maybe some kind of bounce. Going to see if there's a light divergence here in the morning, as it is outside of its weekly expected move as well. Let me double check that. Yeah, well outside of its weekly expected move, which actually, when it's this far outside of the weekly expected move, I don't necessarily like to take any kind of trade outside of it like I normally would, because we could get that reaction up, but this selling could just continue. You're now in this downward trend. The sell button's being pushed pretty hard. This is not good news for Tesla coming out of China. Not good news for Apple. Now, NVIDIA able to hold up at higher levels, really paying attention to that 850 level, but as we look at the max pain here for NVIDIA, I believe it's 900 is starting to creep up. So last week we were really paying attention to 800, 850, still your first real call wall, but 900 looking a little bit more. 900 looking a little bit more pumpy at this point, so you want to look at 800 and 900. It would make total sense to land in between, anywhere in between 800 and 900 this week. Just pay attention to that with NVIDIA. 900 is the big call wall at this point. AMD seeing a little bit of a sell-off. Wonder what people are rotating into at this point. They could actually be buying NVIDIA with this. So we're seeing this roll down. Want to look at my 2 hours, see if that's able to cross. And we're starting to open right now. We're going to get through a lot more of these real quick. At the open, it takes some time to load. So I'm paying attention if this 2 hour can cross. Makes sense to come down to a point of liquidity right in here, right? So we'll have to see if we're able to do that. Pay attention if it's able to hold up a little bit higher. That would be a good sign. If it starts to dip lower, that would kind of invite some possible structure to break down. Meta It wants to load Meta. Always at the open, it goes a little slow. Meta crossing on the 2 hour. This is overall what I was paying attention to. If I break it down to say a 30-minute, really going to see how this was kind of a little double top up in here. So wanted to pay attention to that, see if that's able to break down. I have a little area here for 88.53 marked off, but good chance we actually come down to the weekly expected move. So for Meta, you actually do get the weekly expected moves, and it looks like we're pointing to the downside, but getting a small bounce to open the day. Makes sense. So let's go over to the SPY. Let's go to a 15-minute and watch this. You can see we weren't able to gap below that daily expected move. So now we can still use it as support. We're not fully into negative territory yet. We're actually almost oversold in the 15-minute. So good likelihood of some kind of bounce here. Will that be just something that kind of flags out and then we head lower? We'll have to see, but we didn't gap below. The Qs, on the other hand, did gap below. So if this wants to continue and then get a retest of this, that can hold as resistance at this point. But overall, just wanted to say good morning to you guys. Good morning, HQ fam. Good morning to 2DB. Just wanted to say good morning to you guys. Hope you got your cup of coffee ready. And we do get services PMI in about 29 minutes. So tell me your trades. Tell me what you got going on today. What do you think is going to happen? Did you expect this selling to come in? Juan Pablo Montoya. Hola. Good morning. Buenos dias. Tell me your guys' plays. Overall, I was listening to Bloomberg this morning, just kind of listening to some of their Fed rate talk, and now they had one Fed speaker come out, Bostic, who apparently was pretty bullish. Now he's tapering back and saying, we might only get one rate cut this year, and then we might pause. So that is a complete change from what he's been saying. He's been really adamant about the, 3 rate cuts this year, and now we're down to 1, and with that guy at least. And then what we'll have to pay attention to is what Jerome Powell says tomorrow. So we will be live for that. Like this video as much as possible. Obviously that's one per person, but like this video, please, because it helps us out, and we can all watch Jerome Powell tomorrow together and kind of break down any kind of question he has asked, any kind of statement that is made. Right now, you just need to know, hey, they overall told you they are not in control of inflation. And we're starting to see some of that pushback from these rate raising and stuff like that. So China coming out, not giving the best news to Tesla and Apple at this point. Apple really selling off. You would expect some buying to come in here. You actually would have, if you could remain here for a sec, you could have a divergence down here. Maybe you react, come touch this zone. Tesla, you really need a reaction down here around this 180.92. We hit a low here of 181.71. NVIDIA actually breaking below 850, so that's kind of big. And AMD coming back below 200. 200 was a very important level for it. And Meta wanting to break down a little bit too. So we're going to have to pay attention to a lot of things today. If I want. Amazon trade looks nice. Let's see if Amazon's able to break down to lower levels. See what this PMI news is before I reposition anything. But this was the trade that I took. Little 30-minute here. Yeah, you have the divergence. I'm treating this kind of like a pullback. That's why I'm talking about getting out. But you see that divergence on the MACD. Don't necessarily see it on the RSI at the same time. So I'm treating this like a pullback at this point. Do believe that if it's able to hold up at the high side of this liquidity right up in here, that would be okay news for Amazon going forward. If it wants to break down lower, I'll start to be a little bit more open to some kind of right shoulder in the near future. But this is my trade right now, and it's going pretty well. I just want to see if that PMI kind of maximizes this one for me. Am I going down now? It is going down. Quick question. If crash. Yes. Most of the time in a crash, almost everything goes down. In a crash, almost everything goes down. And you usually see flight to safety, like even TLT, like TLT sometimes actually does break to the upside with that. So that's why the flight to safety with as far as bonds goes. That's why you can see the rates actually come down and the market go down. That's why rate cuts actually can be a bad thing. Usually that's happening when a bank is failing or something like that, and then people run to safety, which is TLT, and then it pulls the rates down. So that is something to really, really think about. 15-minute getting oversold at this point on Amazon, so we'll have to see if this wants to flag out for the next little bit of time, or if this wants to just gradually sell off. What's the Fed going to do? Well, what did they tell us they were going to do? They said that they were going to do 3 rate cuts this year, and they've really stuck to that. But now they put that thing in the FOMC minutes that actually said, hey, we don't feel like we are in control of this inflation. They literally put it in the FOMC minutes, so that's what you have to pay attention to. This is the gamma flip, by the way. So this is what can happen to you once that that kind of like a call squeeze happens. So we'll have to see as the SPY is breaking down. This is a good sign. If we come up into here, let's just see if we can use that as resistance. I think today will really just depend on the services PMI in about 24 minutes. So we'll pay attention to that. We have it up here. The expected for this is 53, 52.9. So 53. Previous was 53.4. So expected to come down a little bit. If this comes below, I mean, if it gets drastic and goes below 50, that would be really, really bad. But the fact that it's just going to come in lower with all the data that we just got, it could be not the best sign for the market. Amazon now down 1.15 on the day. Got to decide if I want to get out of this or not. What do you guys think? Amazon going a lot lower. It's a great position for me, and I've already made a a good chunk of money on this with just this, and it just crossed on this 2-hour. So I'm very tempted to just hold it for a little bit here, maybe at least down to my 173 marker. Because this area here would be very likely for some kind of bounce, especially if we get there really early in the morning. Now, the only bad part about this is if services PMI comes out bad, we actually could see this escalate. We could see this come all the way down to the weekly expected move, like a day. That would be a little bit crazy. We'd probably see some kind of bounce with Jerome Powell. This the moment we are waiting for. This is a moment where you really have to pay attention. You don't know if this is the overall crash, but this is one of those moments where you need to be a little bit patient with the market. Look for your setups. The upside is very limited. You have a bunch of divergences. This is what we point out throughout this whole bull run, is points to just be careful. That last point was overall back in here, right? So all this in here would be your next point to pay attention to. All this price action here, tons of divergences, close to negative territory, but look at this. So this is a point where you want to pay attention. All this in here led to a bunch of divergences getting close to negative territory. What happened? It wasn't able to get into it. So what do we see? We just see this kind of flag out, create a little head and shoulders right in here, and then we start to head higher. That can happen again. That's why you really want to pay attention to if this like 2 hours is able to get into negative territory. A good sign that the negative trend on the 2 hours starting. When that negative trend on the 2 hours starts, that's when the daily can start to roll over and things like that. The daily charts are what you want to pay attention to. So we see these 2 hour divergences, but the daily is still in an uptrend. Now you did just get that. If we get a red day today, you will get that to confirm on the divergence for Amazon. That could be very bad moving forward. We could actually see it test like 166 next week. This level down here is going to be very, very important. We're coming up into some big news. So it's a time where you have to say, hey, maybe I want to position myself for a pullback at this point and then see what happens from there. Nas down 160. Q's about to curl over on that daily as well. Okay, so really pay attention today. We have about 20 minutes till we get some data. Remember, the data can flip us completely the other direction, or it can escalate whatever's happening right now. In this market, inflation only going... This market now, inflation only going only up, waiting for cut. interest. Okay, so and just to let you know, they may talk about that. We could see a question about that going into tomorrow and Thursday. So tomorrow and Thursday are going to be very, very good days to, pay attention to what Jerome Powell is saying, because he will have to answer the questions, and we just hope that he doesn't give those, I don't recall, we're waiting for more data. He always says we're waiting for more data, and it's pretty much, if he gets asked something like, do you feel in control of inflation? He says, oh, we're waiting on the data. Do you feel in control of inflation? Yes. Which one is good? Which one is bad? A little cold down here, but. So which one are you in control with? Which one do you think is a positive answer? The positive answer and the confident answer, if he gets asked if he's in control of inflation, is yes. The bad answer is anything that is, have you guys learned this? Not yes. Anything that is not a yes is a no, technically. So what you'd want to say is, but do people react to that? That's the thing. Using that type of language, you can get people to react and say, oh, he didn't say no. So we just have to pay attention. This data will be very important. Let's actually pop over and look at the VIX. I haven't looked at that today. Now, we are seeing a pop here. This daily still negative at this point, but a good gap up past the trend right now. See if this is able to curl up in positive territory. This is what we talked about a little bit over the weekend. I believe that once this actually crosses one more time on the daily side, all bets are off. I think we're actually going to be seeing bear market. I think at least bear market, if not some kind of initial crash, because the reason people really want to talk about a crash is just because look at this thing. Like, look how pretty vertical that is. This is a huge move. And when you get a huge move like this is why I was talking about I would have liked more structure heading up, something like this, so it extends into possibly even October of this year. But because it's so fast up, it's like, climbing a set of stairs. Well, now you invite a more dramatic pullback. So we can now pull back all the way to 492 very quickly in the month of March here. And so that's why we have to be a little bit careful moving forward. But the 15-minute on the SPY, seeing if it's able to hold below. Microsoft at lows, a lot of things. Actually, a lot of the big seven showing some lows here. Wonder if Google kept that selling going. Not the most selling in Google. Amazon now only down 0.97. Really want to see if the SPY is able to buy back up from here. So we'll have to see what that data is saying. But the Q's just rip into the downside here. It's most likely just that Tesla, Apple. Looks like this is something that we were paying attention to, that reconnection with the moving averages after seeing a huge drop off. We like to reconnect. We expected that. Now we're getting that to taper down again. Look for some kind of divergence down here on the 2-hour for Palo Alto here. This actually could drop into here again. You could see some kind of divergence. We actually could be seeing a pullback and then a little bit of a pop. But this is a good area to say, hey, we're below this 200 on the 2-hour. We're getting that cross into negative territory. Good shot. We come and test this low. Unless we get some very good news, right? We have to pay attention to that good news that could come out. And that good news could be services PMI in about 16 minutes. Yeah, let's look at Microsoft real quick. Microsoft, whoo, that's a huge drop off. I like to look at a 2-hour here. Look at that. First time the 2-hour has crossed. Microsoft was something we actually talked about a little bit on the live show here, talking about this base. This is really where we want to see, are we going to break down to lower levels? Well, from here, you would just say, is this going to complete this big cup right now, get some kind of handle, or is this just going to break through this level and come test this low? So this area of 397, very important. We were talking about head and shoulders across the board. This wasn't able to break down. Maybe it's just an extended, what's the word? Extended, I guess we'll just say it's an extended right shoulder at this point, but we could see something happen because we are wedging off here. 30-minute. On the 30-minute here, we're noticing that huge drop off, 1.85% in the first 15 minutes here today. The thing I was going to point out was you do have divergence. I don't believe that's on the RSI at the same time. It's not wanting to load. So you still could have some kind of pullback here. Looks like flatness of the RSI, divergence on the MACD, which just says, hey, there is a probability for this to go negative because they're at the same time, even the flatness. Take out this low, head to this one, get some kind of small bounce, then you're going to start to break down. So really paying attention to 397.50, 397. NVIDIA back to green for the day, holding above 850. Very, very important to hold above 850. The faster it all goes up, the faster it comes down hard. So it's the stair stepper up, the elevator down. But you notice NVIDIA not at all in a negative trend, even on the 15 minutes. So your small time frame not even able to go into a negative trend. We saw this, but this was just, pretty controlled profit taking here. And then we see that breakout. So not too worried about that at this point. AMD looking a little different, right? It's able to get a little bit lower. If that continues, we can see that negative trend continue. Palo Alto now breaking down to the lows of the day. Meta actually trying to hold up at this level here. This is really where I want it to hold up if it wants to see another move higher. So this area up in here is where I'll pay attention for a move higher. If we start to break below that, then I'll look for just some kind of bounce for some kind of right shoulder. But good morning, good morning. Qs, we really just want to see, is this able to hold below, right? Is this going to get a reaction up and just come right back down? That's overall the thinking here. Because once we get outside of those daily expected moves, what did we say? Well, you have a 68% chance to land back within it, but you have a 32% chance of something more dramatic happening. So we'll really have to pay attention to this moving forward. Just know there's going to be, I don't think this will be unless we see some kind of actual horrible news come out, I don't think we'll see like a crash, meaning like 5 to 10% in one day on the Qs or something like that. I really think this will be a hit the tree limbs on the way down. Looking for a big move on silver. Silver and gold, I mean, I know gold had a very strong move on the daily side of things. We could be getting some kind of pullback, but that is a strong move. You see my consolidation here. We can break to the upside. We get that break. We get that continued move. You're outside of the Bollinger Bands at this point. So you could come reconnect with these moving averages before you head higher, but I do have 205.65 marked off for myself on gold. Silver just kind of like lags behind it sometimes. The silver chart looks completely different than this, though. Apple way outside of this Bollinger Band. It probably will try to reconnect with some of these, so be careful. We could be experiencing some kind of bounce with that news this morning or with Jerome Powell tomorrow. We'll talk about that if it looks plausible in tonight's video. This is all you're looking for. You're looking at this liquidity, and this is what we talked about with Amazon. Is it able to hold up at this level here? Very important. If it breaks down further, you open the door for some kind of lower high. QQQ, are we going to test 435? Very, very possible to test 435. It's within all this zone here. You really want to see how it reacts off of your weekly expected move, 437.18. But if it comes down to a 435, you now have that opportunity to close back in this zone. 68% chance of that happening. So just want to pay attention to a lot of things throughout the day. We are seeing a lot of things go red. But we do still have services PMI in 11 minutes. We have Jerome Powell. I told you this month of March, I'm expecting some crazier price action, some bigger swings in the market. So we can swing up or swing down, swing up, swing down. We can swing further down, then come up, then go down, then see another big pop. So I'm really going to pay attention to this as a actual trader and do what I say on this channel. I'm going to trade like water. I'm going to flip back and forth and just see what trade setups I get, make my little bits of money throughout every single week of March, because I think we're going to get some up and down price action unless someone says something's breaking, unless someone says, hey, something is broken, or if something just breaks, then I'm going to say, okay, the crash might be happening. But at this point, The news that we're getting is bad, and I think we're going to go bear market with this, which will be bigger swings in the overall market. As of right now, you're still positive trend. You're still in an uptrend. Like if I zoom out, we're still heading up over time. Okay, so you don't want to treat anything. You can get eaten alive if you think this is a huge, just all at once crash. A bear market is a way for the market to crash. It's just a bear market eats people alive. It eats alive both sides because once you think, oh, it's all going to hell in a handbasket, it bounces. And then once you think it's all going to reverse and go into a bull run, it crashes down again. Sorry if you guys hear the baby crying. But where's a good example of this here? I guess we can pull back into this area. So you see this is what people considered a bear market. I don't know if I would consider it one, but you'll see the times where everyone was talking about everything going to go down by 50% was right here, was right here, and was right over here. Where did we call the bottoms? Well, I didn't have my channel around here, but this is what market really made me a very, very good trader. It really helped me practice to the full extent my skill. Boom, right here is actually where I would have said, where I actually took an up trade. Boom, it goes up. Now we retest the 200, I get out of my position, it starts to crash back down. We see that curl back over into negative territory. Now I know I can go short here. Boom, it goes down. We get this little pop. I don't play this. I play this one. Why? Because there's divergence here, there's divergence here. So this is where the next time people said everything's going down by another 20%. Okay, we see that bounce up. So we see that bounce up. Where do we head towards? The 200. Right when I see that resistance, I get out of my position somewhere around here. See that flip over to the negative side. That's when I take the next short. Okay, so then the next short comes in. We see this huge downtick over the next few months here. And then down here, we see a light divergence here. All right, we see that 200, we get that reaction down, I'm out of my position. I get back in here because we still have a big divergence across the board. Boom, we see that come up. Now we know, hey, it's consolidating, hits the 200, now it comes up. Now we know this is a bull run. Because we broke through the 200, we retested it, and then we broke through that high again. Now you know this is going to be my bull run. And plenty of stocks were telling you that. So throughout this run, we also noticed, hey, where's a point where we're going to run into resistance? Well, it's going to be right here. Look at this divergence up here. You can see that between these highs. Now we see that start to fluctuate, but look at this price action now. So once you see that positivity, you're going to get a lot more bumps in the road. Bumps, bumps, bumps. You're going to get a lot more of those on the way down. Now this was consolidation. We have this marked off. It breaks to the upside. Now we're still in that bull run. We're still going higher, but now you have the extreme move over time. Now you have a quadruple divergence at the highs here. You can see how the RSI is almost getting tight in like a wedging pattern, right? So that means that the RSI is about to explode. It means that price is getting tight up here. We're most likely about to go one of these directions, and now we're seeing that come down. So I know that was kind of a random big breakdown, but that area of time really made me a much better trader. I got to really practice my skill. Bull runs and things like that are pretty simple. You just kind of swing trade it on the way up, in my opinion. That's at least what I did. But yeah, so that's overall the thinking, though. This is a time where we have to pay attention again because we see all that quadruple divergence. So it's a good time to pay attention. We could see a more dramatic pullback, and then if we want to head higher, that's fine. We're going to see stuff curl up in positive territory. If we're going to head lower quickly, most likely we need something to break, okay? And then if we're actually going to see bear market, then we're going to see a dependent on the data. Are we raising rates? Are we lowering rates? We're going to get this whole narrative game, which actually makes the market a lot more volatile, which is pretty good for a trader. Traders actually like a little bit of volatility, at least myself, as long as you have a strategy around it. If you don't have a strategy around it, I'd really think about clicking on that course, right? I'm expecting us to go into a bear market by end of March, and it's starting to show right now. So if you want to go down in the link in my description, it's right now the course is only $100. it's going to go up to $200 at the end of March, because by then we'll be in a bear market most likely. So yeah, keeping it cheap before the bear market so you can learn this stuff, and then we can start to see that break down. But if you come in while the bear market's happening, it's going to be $200. So 50% off during March. Check it out. And if that's not something you're interested in, hey, just try to read between the lines during the videos and try to learn that way. That's perfectly fine. Perfectly okay with that. But if you want it cut and dry, here's what you need to know. Here's what I do, and here's a trading strategy for your bear market around everything that we've learned. That would be where you really want the course. From there, it would just be helpful. If you don't want to do the course action, then just go with the Patreon. Go with the Patreon. We give you the trade setups. I'm most likely going to make a video tonight around these weekly ranges, just showing people like, hey, yeah, we're approaching there very, very quickly. Let's look if there's any trade setups, which one of the trade setups we had actually happened yesterday, right up in here on a 15-minute. Probably should have made a video around it, but 15-minute divergence. Q's not confirming that move either. This is something we talked about yesterday. Guess what? We're dropping down now. We're outside of that daily expected move. We can use that as resistance moving forward. Any green light, Apple will recover. Okay, so Apple is at levels where it's through its weekly range, so you do have a 68% chance that lands above, but I can tell you that that weekly range is not near where you're at right now. You would need a pretty damn strong move in order for that weekly range to get back in there. Somewhere around 174. That's not the exact number, but join my Patreon if you're interested in looking for these bounces, because very, very useful. But yeah, so with Apple here, I'd really see if this 15-minute divergence, really pay attention in 3 minutes. Services PMI could be the thing that saves Apple for now, but this is very bad news. I would not try to catch a falling knife. You're below that weekly expected move, so even if you did rise up to say 174, you can see that as resistance and break down again. You're in a negative trend. You're kind of like, hey, this could keep going. Q's really wanting to break down. Amazon still holding at lower levels. Meta holding a little bit lower here. See, this is where we can hold up in Meta. This is where we can hold up in Amazon to see another leg higher. So even though we are seeing the overall market break down really, really fast, I'm seeing things that are holding up a little bit better. See if we're able to do that with the news that comes out in about 2.5 minutes here. So do you think we'll have any rate cuts this year? I'm going to think that tomorrow he's going to say rate cuts are on the table, but they are not leaning towards them at this moment. I don't think he gives you an exact date. I don't think he gives you anything useful for yourself as far as trading goes, Fancy Flavor. I really think that he's going to be as vague as possible. That last FOMC minutes, though, actually caused us, we actually went up with it. But if you really read between the lines, they literally said we don't feel like we're in control of inflation. So if they aren't feeling in control of inflation, the probability of them cutting is low. The probability of them cutting 3 times is low. And that's why I don't think that was mentioned in the FOMC minutes. Powell will cut the rate only when CPI is 2%. Exactly. Are we 2%? What did we see in the CPI? Are we 2%? No, we actually saw that tick up. So that's why they changed the narrative. We might not be in control of inflation. Not something you want to hear the Fed say. The people who are supposed to be in control of inflation should probably not be putting out a statement saying, we don't feel like we're in control of inflation. We need more data. You're going to hear that a lot tomorrow. We're going to be dependent on the data. Yeah. And most of the time during things like this, at least history will tell you if you read back a little bit, throughout most of the cuts here, most of the cutting happens when something is breaking. So, and they're trying to do soft landing. And I heard a guy say this morning that soft landing is still on the table. And I'm just like, I don't know what world he's living in. All right, before this news, I know the news is going to come out actually, so I'll wait to use the restroom 1 second. I was going to go use the restroom real quick, but so looking for PMI, 53.4 is previous, came in at 52.6. Okay, that is lower. Now you have to say, is this going to be a bad news is good news? We'll have to see. Qs. Let's just watch the Qs during this because the Qs are what's going to be the most affected. But that actually coming in lower is not good. You actually want that to show some strength there. Factory orders coming in negative as well. Pretty much all the PMIs, except for the composite, coming in lower. Business activity higher, and then Fed bar speaks twice today. So that's something to pay attention to. But right now you're seeing a slight positive reaction to that news. And this is where we can get that positive reaction. Now, what we want to pay attention to here is this positivity granted? Is this just going to be some sideways movement to then head a little bit lower? That's what you want to pay attention to. You really want to see kind of a V shape here, like AMD actually. You see this start to V shape. That would be nice. NVIDIA is starting to consolidate still at lower levels. Overall, those are not good numbers for the market. The Q's getting a good reaction here. So we are getting a reaction based off that data, but is that going to be sideways movement, or are we actually going to retest this area and then head down one more time? That's what we need to pay attention to. Really just have to watch this MACD, see if that's able to go up into maybe positive territory for a moment. If that curls back over, meaning this kind of goes like this and then curls back down, that could be a good shot to test this low. Most likely we're going to break through this weekly expected move, come into this area a little bit deeper. So really want to see a vertical recovery. The other thing, bullish side, you want to see here is for it to actually break up above this, maybe test it again, use it as some support. It affected the yields real big. Yields dropped off significantly. We're seeing TLT kind of explode higher. Seeing those yields really break down from that news, I don't know if that's justified at this point. That's kind of crazy, but dropping below the 200, now you're seeing that crossover. See if this goes negative. We might actually... We'll have to see what Jerome Powell says. This actually is a recipe for disaster. This is a recipe for Jerome Powell saying, hey, the banks are really struggling. If he gets a bank question, he could say, how much, he gets asked about bank failures. This can actually drop off and TLT can actually explode. Okay, so TLT is something I've been paying attention to. I'll try to make this part of my videos again. Slight divergence here on the RSI. Okay, that's the only reason. I really haven't covered it much because I think that these rates were going to go a tiny bit higher. Maybe we get another point here, but I would just pay attention, maybe put something like this up. See if we're able to cross above that level. You might be getting some kind of wonky left head. Maybe you get this reaction up. You come back down to this level, get that right shoulder. So kind of a slanted head and shoulders right there. VIX starting to drop off a little bit from that. The SPY, we don't want to be on the daily. Let's go to a 15-minute. This is what you want. I think it's buying back above that daily expected move. So this is really what you want to see as far as the bull side. You really want to see this be able to buy up. Now the Q is significantly lower, so this is why you want to pay attention to the Qs. You want to see if this movement here has the higher probability of taking out that area there, using it as some resistance. So if it's able to buy back up, though, that would be some good news. And part of me is really thinking about getting out of some of this stuff just in case we see some reversal here. See this divergence down here. Now you have divergence on a 15-minute at the same time below the weekly expected move. So I think I'll take this maybe as a hedge here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So just sold out of my Amazon trade, little 1% move down. Just kind of worried that this 30 minutes going to be able to curl back up. It's still in positive territory, and we're still at this topping here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's fine. I made money off the trade, but sold off near negative territory. If this just starts to curl up, we could see another move higher in Amazon. Not expecting some big crashing down at this point. Really think if we're able to hold up at higher levels, we may extend this for a little bit more time. Maybe going into CPI. And that's something also to mention. Okay, so CPI actually comes out next week. Market reading PMI good. Yes, and that's interesting because it actually came in lower. You usually want that PMI to be a little higher. Now it is holding above 50, so that could be the positive news, right? So as long as your PMI holds above 50, it's usually pretty good news as far as services go. Now, something I did want to mention was the CPI comes out next week. Okay, so we actually get CPI next week. We saw that tick up. Could we get some kind of move up with Jerome Powell and then see that come back down? Not a problem. This number is the market. Yeah. Good. Yeah. The what we were talking about as far as the bad news that has to actually break down this market. Look at how high we have gone. Okay, so if you scroll back, you'll see, look at this. Look how high we have gone. Oh my gosh, I have to scroll way out to do this, but you'll see we've really kept going up. Okay, so during all this euphoria, we really have to say, okay, what is it that is going to bring down this market? Is a little piece of bad news going to bring down this market? No, it's just going to pull you back. And then you could probably go up again because you could react off the 50. You could even come down and react off the 200, get some kind of more like a corrective move. So you really need bad news, like stapled bad news, like something breaking in the system. Fed saying they're not in control of inflation with Jerome Powell's own mouth will cause a bigger reaction to the downside. But if we just see like a little bit of bad news, sure, you can get some kind of pullback, but we could just start to head higher. This is still very, very bullish at the end of the day. So Amazon, something I'll pay attention to. See if this 15 minutes able to roll up. Apple, is that what I want to take a stab? I really want to do, like, the thing is, I know I wouldn't touch this. Look at Apple. Apple coming up into a point here where it could get some of that buying, right? This is where it exploded from. This is where we actually gave a great trade too, right? So we're not always bearish on this channel, but we are saying like, hey, this is going to be a lead up to an overall crash. Triple divergence here, good probability for a bounce. Guess what? Able to get into positive territory, we get that bounce. So that was a great trade. Now we have to see, is this going to keep breaking down? Well, we're well outside of the Bollinger Bands a lot of the time, as long as we're not crashing off the cliff, which we kind of are right now. You can actually see this react back up, kind of like Palo Alto. We can see that reaction up, kind of coming up into this zone again, and then see that break back down when it reconnects with its moving averages. So I got to think about, oh God, I just deleted that. That's okay. I'll remake that in a little bit. Oh gosh, do I dare do it? See if it's cheap. Me too. It could come all the way up to like a 174, 179 area here. This would be like catching a falling knife. That's why I'm like, I don't know if you want to take this. So I'll think about it for a little bit. Amazon, not really seeing that vertical recovery. NVIDIA actually selling off. Meta selling off a little bit more. So Palo Alto is starting to head to lower levels as well. Getting divergence, though, by positive territory. It does have that divergence here on the 15-minute. I'm more like a 30-minute divergence, but I don't know if we necessarily have one at this moment. You could create a small one here, but it's not going to be on the R side at the same time. I'm going to take this just in case, kind of like a hedge against my shorts. Cool. Now we got our hedging going. Make sure to hit that like button this morning, guys. Really appreciate you guys coming by. The market is manipulated. Many retirement money is going go in. The government actually did. We saw those the money funding or whatever come in a little bit higher yesterday. So kind of interesting on that standpoint. Microsoft down 2%. Not good for the market. Really not, Scott. It's really bad. Now, Microsoft was the one we were paying attention to. It can hold up at these higher levels, but you could break all the way down to 397 before you see some kind of reaction. So there's a lot going on here. The Q is holding at lower levels. This might be a fake out. We're getting this. Remember, we talk about this all the time. Getting here early on in the week, this could be some kind of fake out, or we could break down to lower levels, even like this, and then see that slow right shoulder form the rest of the week. Really want to pay attention this morning. Shoot a bunch of 0.01 QQQ puts and just cash them out at 0.02. Heck yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I sold out of my Amazon trade for the time being. See if this wants to curl up one more time. I'm not going to play any upside here. I'm going to take a little bit of a hedge in other places. Let me keep it on the Qs. And this is where we can see those reactions from the weekly expected move. You've already broken through the daily. So now you have to say, okay, it's probably heading towards that weekly expected move. There, Mr. Charts, Mr. Charters, thank you so much for subscribing. Really do appreciate it. Look at you bouncing on that screen. Look good up there. Thank you for joining. Max, will the lockup expo drop arm? Seems like a high probability trade. I mean, that's something you can look at. I have no money for stimulation. Well, I mean, have you seen the debt too? Like, honestly, they just keep making more debt. So if they want to, they can pump more money into the system. They're just going, they know that they're on the verge of hyperinflation. That's why you're seeing the 3 rate cuts get taken out of the FOMC minutes. That's why you're seeing that. It's because hyperinflation is on the table. We just saw CPI tick up. We're seeing stock market at all-time high here. Come on, like, hyperinflation is on the table. And if they wanted to, they could easily just throw it at us. We'd all be paying $20 a burger at McDonald's. You're already paying $12 for a burger meal at McDonald's, so. Apple, keep an eye on this. No recovery here from Apple. Most likely this is just a falling knife at this point. The best case for Apple at this point is really pay attention to that weekly expected move. See if that wants to get tested. Just somewhere around 174. Battling at 438, breaking. So I'm really just paying attention to my weekly at this point. This is what I was overall saying in my videos. Yes, I'm okay with us holding up in this higher zone, this area up in here, right above the weekly expected move. This would be a great area to hold up. Right here, you have a 68% chance to land higher. If you break below this area, you have a 68% chance to land up here. And you do still have a 68% chance to land in here by end of week. So it's a time to be like, hey, if this wants to hold up at this area, that would be good. Maybe we can see one more push before we want to break down. If it heads lower, then you start to create the structure for some way to break down. There's a lot to do. Okay, I am going to see if they're talking about stuff over here. I'm just going to leave you on Apple. They're talking about Apple in China as of right now, so I'm going to leave you on there and go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
The strength of the economy is that overall handset sales shrunk, right? You look at all the different names, some grew, the majority saw shrinking sales the first 6 weeks. The stock's down 2%. We're trading at our lowest level since October. Interestingly, this is one data point, right? It's the most read story on the Bloomberg terminal.
God, I wish I lived near somewhere with crawfish. All right, I'm using the restroom.
Out there is just growing disappointment about a lack of an AI story. Tim Cook promised at the AGM February 28th that the AI story is coming. But a part of this, if you look at the comments from the sell side and other strategists, is they look at Samsung, which has talked so publicly about the generative AI capabilities of its latest handset, and they recognize the traction Samsung's getting with that. And they're basically pleading with Apple to say, give us something equivalent that they've not yet done. But yeah, stock down 2%, lowest level since October. And in China, which is, of course, Greater China, around a quarter of revenue, this is a really big problem.
Yeah, and those analysts really are taking against the stock at the moment. Yesterday, it was being removed from Evercore's tactical list, and the list goes on. And thank you very much. Great context around Apple's push lower this morning. Tesla, the same story here. We've got extending declines. This as China shipments fall to the lowest level in more than a year. Isabel Lee is with us. Isabel, I suppose the debate will rage here as to what pressure Tesla is under to perhaps move out of Mag 7 to turn into the famous 5. Good morning.
Good morning. That's exactly right. And in China, it's proving to be a tougher narrative for Tesla. So
what are they talking about? Tesla now?
In more than a year,
Go
but
look
that's
at Tesla.
Because of a sales slow.
Oh, look at where we're hitting. It's almost like we said this yesterday.
It's
almost like we said this 2 days ago.
2.5%. Tesla shipped 60,000.
This is where you can start to hold up.
From their China factory in February. That's
you really want to hold up here, see some reaction, because you break through this low. We're heading to 154.78.
Such a big cause of alarm because during holidays, especially the Lunar New Year holiday, which is the biggest holiday in China, millions go off to visit their friends and family.
Dude, my stuff is not
Sales are generally
loading.
lower. And as we know, China's EV market is slowly slowing, which is why Tesla, in a bid to compete with its rivals, have been offering numerous strategies.
Thank you guys so much for liking the stream. Thank you for
discounts on
subscribing. You guys are
some paint
great.
colors and also offering subsidized insurance to really compete in the local market. And this is where things get tricky. We have price cuts by major manufacturers. So this is, again, in a bid to boost sales, prompting some customers to hold back on purchases.
Palo Alto
and that's according to China's passenger car association.
is my other trade. This does
there,
not
it's
look
kind of like
like
a cycle.
selling.
You wait for a discount, but then you don't buy because you hope that it'll grow. The prices will become lower. So definitely something to think about. For now, shares of Tesla are down 25% year to date, Manus.
Isabel, thank you very much. It's like everybody
guys.
waiting to jump into the property market. It might not do you to extend and wait. So from EVs to semiconductors, US officials are telling AMD
be smart with it today,
chips
not try to
Chinese
make
market,
any huge
too
amounts
powerful
of
to sell
money.
that. At least without a license from the Commerce Department. It's a tough old one to sell, isn't it, Simone, to the Commerce Department?
I'll take
and it's been a tough path to navigate for
15% gain on the whole
AMD,
day.
as it has been with the likes of NVIDIA, as well as they try
Great
and
trade
get
by
around
Amazon.
that 2022 ban on selling their best AI chips to China. So sources telling Bloomberg, who was first to report this news, that AMD was looking to launch a version of its MI300 flagship chip.
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard my dad was telling me about this. Like,
with these
I was like, SoundHound, really?
in China, but apparently Commerce Department now thinks that even this chip has too much juice.
Oof.
This mirrors what we've seen with NVIDIA, for example.
You're still above
which
the
went out to the
200,
market
so if
with
we
what it
see
thought
something
was a
like that,
compliant
you
chip.
can swing
Then the
trade a
Commerce
little bit.
Department
But this
said,
is something
"Actually,
I
that's
don't
a little
really
bit
touch.
Too exciting for us." They tried to further restrict that, and they've continued to face questions
Apple,
about whether
look
the
at
Commerce
that.
Department
Oh my
will
gosh.
allow
Let's see
them.
what Apple's
The good
done
news
since
for
it's
AMD
high up here.
is, that
How
it's
far
never
down
really
is
been
it from
quite
up
as
here?
exposed to China as its
14%. That's kind of
competitor,
wild.
NVIDIA. And Bloomberg Intelligence
This area here is great support, though.
This isn't likely to impact near-term sales estimate for AMD or its
find that zone again.
$3.5 billion AI GPU outlook for 2024 because its main buyers are in North America. That said, this news is weighing on shares today, down 1.6%. But I think you back out the picture, you look gains of nearly 37% so far this year and 151% in the past year, Manus.
Pretty spectacular. Simone, thank you very much.
That's pretty much my zone
this morning. My next guest is Schwab's Omar Aguilar, joining me to discuss this. We've just been through a litany of angst from Apple, AMD, and Tesla. This is a market that is disturbed by doing business in China and with China. Is it a healthy
All right, we're
wake-up
starting to
call
break
at the
below a
moment that
tiny
this
bit.
is
We
what
really
should
need that
fear
reaction here.
in the tech market rather than incrementally higher yields?
Well,
hey,
good
great
morning.
trade, Lisa.
Clearly the macro environment, tends to have a big role in the way that, markets behave. We have been, consistently focused on two things. What is the macro environment that allows these companies to perform and generate earnings? A lot of the companies that you mentioned.
Is there anything crazy going on? Tesla's still down 4.4%.
Cash flow. But at some point, as you actually
They're
get
talking
to
about
certain
individual
levels
companies
of
now.
market cap and certain levels of earnings.
And it was behind. But I really wanted to look if anything's kind of crazy down. Nothing really. NVIDIA down now almost 1%. Amazon, dang it. Could have made a little bit more on this, guys. Shoot. It's got a good shot to just keep going here. Very, very oversold. So if all this news is bad enough, then we can keep going. We can just see this kind of escalate still. That's why I'm really just wanting to watch the Qs, see if we get some reaction down in this area. My goodness. The hood. The hood might be in trouble, but this is overall looking like head and shoulders. Most likely we actually get a bounce here at this level. Off that 200 there on the 15-minute at this level of about 1568. It would make sense to bounce, get some kind of left head and right shoulder. So SPY actually breaking down as well, not able to hold back in that daily expected move. So testing these highs in here, this is the area where you want to pay attention on the SPY, this little area between these highs. That's where you really want to see a bounce if you're bullish. If it's going to go to the bear side, sure, we could still get a bounce. But if this starts to break down lower and then we get that bounce, then you're just creating that right shoulder like this, left head, right shoulder, right by the wedge. You could see that break through. That would be not good news for the SPY. So you really want to see this start to hold up at higher levels. The NASDAQ. Telling you, this is where the selling needs to slow down, or else SPY, you're at gamma flip, like you pretty much are. I think it's a little bit lower, so it does have to come a little bit lower in order for us to really sell off on the SPY. Somewhere actually right around that weekly expected move. If we start to sell below this, then it's like, oh, we actually might be experiencing some crashing. So the Qs right now holding up above that weekly expected move. So this is where we expect, hopefully, some buyers to come in. This actually wouldn't be the worst news if we're not able to break down to lower levels. Pay attention if that's some flagging, get rejection, then come down a little lower. That would be good. But as of right now, if this wants to turn around, good shot on the 30-minute. If this 30-minute can turn around as it's still in positive here, if this wants to turn around, we actually could see that positivity, maybe get some kind of double top or something like that. Is NVIDIA crashing, Jordana? NVIDIA's not crashing. It's actually holding up the best in the whole market right now. So here's how you can think about this market if you're going to experience a crash. If NVIDIA is going down by 5 to 10% in one day, then you are going to most likely see some crashing happening. If NVIDIA is only pulling back by 1% like it is now, you're not going to see the market full-on crash. The NVIDIA and AMD, all these ones, they have such heavy weight in the stock market right now. AMD even coming down by 2%. You need this to come down 5, 10%. Then you're experiencing more of a crash tendency. What's your take on order block? PNW hitting order block. PanW, the thing with this, I mean, I'm just going to talk about how I would do my assessment here. This is a trade that I took for a short time being. I actually got out of it just in case we see some kind of bounce, because this isn't necessarily, dramatic selling. It's kind of still just a little bit flaggy to me, so I just took my money and ran. I made a good chunk though, so how I talk about trading something like this is it bounces down. We talk about the daily, how it's going to come out of that Bollinger Band into a point of consolidation, right? A point of liquidity. So we want that to happen. Jordana, thank you so much for joining and subscribing. But we talked about a reaction from here off that 200 on the daily to reconnect with those moving averages. That's exactly what happened. And then we see that curl over in negative territory. I take a little trade here, take my money out right over here just because gut feeling on that one. I could try to ride this thing all the way down. It would be a fantastic trade. Maybe see a divergence down here, see a big bounce in the future. But as far as my risk goes for the day, I'm expecting some crazier price action. So I'm getting out of a lot of my even short trades. I'm just keeping a few of them and then hedging the other way a little bit just in case. But this is a great way to think about it. You see a huge drop off. You get that reconnection with the moving averages on the daily. I can show you guys Palo Alto. This bar right here, this sell signal right here, boom. We said, hey, yeah, it's a sell signal, okay, but you're already oversold. You're most likely going to reconnect because you're out of the Bollinger Bands with those moving averages. That's exactly what happened. And now we're seeing that pull back down, kind of riding this, but it's still you notice that the 9's actually angled up now. So if we're able to get above that, you can see a little bit more positivity. Maybe fill this gap and then see what the structure looks like on shorter time frames. But this is the trade I took. I took a short right about here and then shorted it down to here, and I'm getting out because, I mean, I made my money. NVIDIA does have to break down. If you really want to see this market crash, it's NVIDIA that has to start to break down pretty rapidly. Now, we were talking about NVIDIA with those max pain, with the put and call walls. Overall, 800 is your call or is your put wall, 900 is your call wall. So it would make sense if NVIDIA actually wanted to just keep bouncing back and forth in here for a little bit of time, as we are kind of in a range between call walls right now, call and put walls. Let me double check, see if I have any other shorts that are making some good money. My hedge just went to... But Meta looks like my only trade really left. It's coming down into my sell point. This is my sell point, so I'll most likely be taking profit at this 488.53. I really think we're going to see this kind of shaken off and then see some kind of move up. But I could be wrong, and I could probably keep this as my overall put trade right now, because this one is worrisome. The 2-hour crossing here is very worrisome for Meta. If this wants to break down, really you can see the structure even here on the 2-hour. Boom, it breaks through here. We see a reaction. We land in this zone 68% of the time. So we break down, we react up. Then by next week, we actually see maybe CPI come out hot, or just more selling continue. With some kind of flagging here. So this is what I'll pay attention to, seeing a sell signal. I think I'd be a little bit crazy to sell out of that unless I see this 30 minutes start to curl back up. Damn, Q's just really breaking down. Negative territory, still negative. This is that time. Let's see, SPY 508 is still not in the gamma flip area. So even though we've seen dramatic selling, it hasn't gotten overly dramatic. It can get overly dramatic if we go a little bit lower. If we start to break below this, it's going to get very ugly. But I just want to see the structure on a 5-minute here. No way we're seeing it curl up yet. Okay. So just so you know, Meta, you don't have divergence or anything at this 5-minute. Apple, you're probably going to have a bunch of 5-minute ones. Ooh, you actually just have one steep one. So this could just bounce up and bounce right back down. You just have a flatness of, well, a little bit up on the RSI, a little bit up on the MACD here, but for a 5-minute, that's not what you want to see. For a 5-minute, you really want to see a divergence that's like deep like this, and then it holds a little bit higher, so you have a chance to be at that positive. I would say that for the 5-minute and the 15. Something we talk about in the course. I could be wrong. I think this is the start of a few weeks of a pullback. I sold yesterday some like 20%. Yeah, so I sold all of my stocks I was holding to the long side yesterday. And holy crap, what a day to sell, am I right? Holy crap. Everything's red. Something we probably should be paying attention to, the VIX. The VIX seeing a strong move here, 2-hour, getting into positive territory. Not the best news, but we've seen before. The VIX needs to hold above this level really when volatility is going to come back in. This daily is going to have to fully cross, and that could happen this week. We could start to see this start to really scale up. Maybe even come fill this up in here before we see that fade back down. But if this crosses, this is when I think, oh, all bets are off. Volatility's back in this market. That's down 260. I feel like every time you type, it's 10 more points. This reaction is very interesting. Getting into positive territory on TLT. We start to break above this. I would be very worried that something in the system is broken. Tesla, let's just take a look at this daily bar. My goodness, we're about to test that low. We talked about this breaking. You're going to most likely test this low if you can't hold up here. We couldn't hold up here. Going to test that low. If this fully crosses, say by tomorrow, Boom, we're going towards a 154.78. Very, very similar thing with the Apple here. Looking at this low at this point, this is where I would pay attention to any kind of upside. But you're way out of the Bollinger Bands. You're way out of the weekly expected moves. So we could get that reconnection before we actually want to head lower. Happens a lot of the time. But till the selling stops, you can't get that reconnection. So don't get, don't try to catch a falling knife or anything like that. I'm taking Apple as a slight hedge, like just in case there's upside. Why'd you sell all your holding? Any reason? I'll show you one reason that I sold all of my holdings. Because the market's up here. That's my whole reason for selling. Got a possible flatness of the MACD on the weekly scale. The last time that we saw a flatness of the MACD or even a divergence, slight divergence on the weekly, on the RSI and the MACD at the same time, this was right here. So right now you have a monthly divergence up in this area, you have a weekly divergence up in this area, and guess what? You have a daily divergence with all this price action here. That tells me be cautious, sell everything, start to look for the short side, but doesn't mean it has to go down in one swoop. I think it'll be a back and forth market, so I'm just getting cash heavy, so I'm ready to take some trades back and forth over the next few days, actually over the next month most likely, because I really think since we broke through this level, now I say, hey, we are going to test this level. Most likely we'll get some kind of bouncing up, and then we'll come back down. We could come bounce all the way up and fill this gap this week and then see that tear back down. CPI next week is going to be very important going into Tuesday. So just paying attention. This is when you have to say the cues. Really think of it this way. I know we could see that volatility keep creeping up. We really could be experiencing some kind of crash. I don't want to lay off that. The China news is very bad, but you have to say the options market only priced in this right here. So from the middle point, you would say the options market has only priced in this. We are making that move as far as Tuesday morning. We have a ton of time left in the week. You could experience some kind of bounce to land back within this zone. 68% of the time we do that. So it's not to say I'm selling everything because I believe that the market's going, the Qs are going to 200 over the next month. I'm saying I'm selling everything to be cash heavy so I can keep flipping back and forth throughout the month of March. And then I expect that we will end up at lower levels in the next year. Therefore, cash heavy, not a bad thing. What are you saying? VIX again going higher. We have to pay attention to the VIX here if it's up by more than 10%, or yeah, 10%. It's up by more than 10%. We got a buy signal here. Holy crap, this thing is actually looking like it might curl up. I am going to keep my meta shorts just in case. That's the only one I'm keeping right now. I sold out of everything. I just made money so fast today that I'm like... my Amazon trade, my Palo Alto trade. Those were the two. Really made me some good stuff, so... But this is great. The only thing that you need now to get to full crash, the full crash indication of the VIX, get that MACD crossed in positive territory on the daily. Okay, that'd be one check. That hasn't happened yet. Okay, get the price, get the reading to hold above the 200. That hasn't happened yet, so it's okay. It's not fully crash yet. And then the very last thing is that 50 crossing above the 200. That is when you know, okay, this is bad. That's when you know this is very, very bad. Really more leverage today. Apple's still creeping down there. The normal hover, all on the bearish side. Everything in the market is red. My options are green to include the lottos. Down 285. Now we're down 25 more points, Richard. Holy crap. Review. just something to note here. The options market only priced in this amount, okay? So the options market only priced in this amount for the entire week to the downside. We're outside of that Tuesday morning. You have a lot of time left. Doesn't mean we can't see one of those times where, hey, this just keeps going. But it does say, hey, we do have that 68% chance to land back in this zone. So just something to note. Look for structure and things like that. There's no real structure down here. The only thing I see would be some kind of reaction to get some kind of a flag here, kind of like this over here. Just get some kind of left shoulder or right shoulder up in this area. That would be nice for some structure on the way down. Very, very oversold on the shorter time frames here. NVIDIA heading lower. See, that's what you don't want to happen. NVIDIA heading lower could come and fill this gap. It would make sense, but really pay attention to this 800 level. So this 800 level is very important, and then 900, very, very important. So that's the range you really want to pay attention to according to Max Payne here, 900, 800. This is your call wall. This is your big put wall. And we have calls at 850 as well. So if we start to hold above 850, again, we can see that squeezing like we did last week. Apple's still going. There is nothing really saying Apple has to bounce from here except for support. Yeah, there's support. This is hitting the level that we hit before this overall second leg of the bull run. Okay, so if you look here, here was that big bull run, the one that we caught way down in here. This is where we were telling you about it. Boom, we see that skyrocket up. We consolidate. This level right here is where we were at back in October when we saw the next boom in Apple. So would expect some buyers to be there. But this is very bad news for Apple, so I totally understand if people are a little hesitant to do that at this point. I don't think it's worth adding to the position. Are you buying SQQQ or tax-ish short indices? This is my plan and holdings from several days ago. Yeah, SQQQ is a good one to hold if you don't want to be too leveraged, but still have a little bit. I would just say, I mean, as far as what I'm doing, I just told you guys I have one short in the market that's still at higher levels, and actually it's coming down even further right now, so I might actually get out of that. I do think this will be an up and down market for the next month, and I'm going to stick to that theory, and I'm going to trade based on that. If I miss out on a big pile of money, that's perfectly fine. I've already made a good chunk of money today, and I'm not going to play around, okay? I'm not going to be like, oh, this thing can go lower, especially Apple even at these levels. It's like, at some point, Apple's going to get a bounce. Am I going to try to catch that? Not necessarily, but the Qs haven't broken down far enough to really fully scare me out. They break through this level here, we'll have a different talk. They break through this, yeah, we'll be talking a lot differently. The SPY is really what I want to pay attention to as well, because I know that the gamma flip area, meaning that time where the selling can really pile on, is like right at this weekly expected move. And guess what? If we go to that weekly expected move today and we see a bounce, this could just be some kind of pullback in this wedging. But if we see that break through here and get some kind of retest by end of week, that's when I'll be scared that this is really, seeing if this is able to break is really what I want to pay attention to. But you're not even in the gamma flip yet. All of this selling is still priced in from the options, okay? Options priced in a move all the way down to here. That's where it's priced in still for this week. So you have to be a little bit contrarian when you get down to this area. Doesn't mean something crazy can't happen, and you still could have a position based on that. I would just not put all my money in one basket for that. Tesla and Apple are bleeding. That's the truth at this point. Tesla just not even holding it at 180. I feel like in my videos over the last couple days, people thought I was crazy for saying like, oh, in this move up here, Tesla actually could end up going to 180. That's when I drew this line, or I drew this line a long time ago. It's been a good support in the past, right? Sorry, dogs are barking. I didn't want your guys' ears to bleed like Tesla and Apple. Next support 150. Next support down here 174. 175 for Tesla. And then I think that if this daily is able to cross, maybe you see some kind of bouncing. It'll take time to get there, but I think this 154, if you pull up that daily and the MACD is able to cross, not the best news there. $154, yeah. NVIDIA 836. Not good for NVIDIA. 290. Richard, I love the updates. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, guys. Don't miss out on any more live shows. Don't miss out on any videos that we're putting out, because if you're following Tesla, we overall were saying yesterday, hey, you could get some kind of retest, but really, I think you're going to head to this 180. If you break through this low, watch out. We could be heading towards 154. Apple, in the grand scheme of things, you can see we're coming up into the area where we kind of have to bounce. Coming up into these lows here, you kind of have to bounce from these lows, or else it's kind of over for Apple. NVIDIA 836 and NVIDIA crashing this week. NVIDIA crashing anytime is very probable, just so you guys know. This move right here, this big move here has not fully digested yet. So NVIDIA crashing, or correcting is more a word, down to test the 50. Notice we haven't tested the 50 since way back in December. So we've had months just going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. So you'd really want to see at least a retest of the 50, which is something that we've actually paid attention to. If you've been watching the videos, we've mentioned this over the weekend a couple times. This gap fill would be great if this was just even some kind of pullback to head higher. Guess what? Your 50 is going to catch up. You're going to probably have the 50 right here. You're going to have gap right here. This is where buying really came in to see this last push. This would be a good area. But as of right now, yeah, NVIDIA can crash at any moment. If NVIDIA doesn't bounce from here, the crash is doomed. Why? So if NVIDIA even pulls back all the way to here, what's the trend? The trend is still up. This would still be in positive territory. If that rolls up, you actually could see another push higher. So the only time I'd really be worried is if that happens very, very quickly. If it happened in a matter of a few days and we get down there really fast, that might just be a dead cat bounce, get some kind of left head, right shoulder. But as of right now, this is still bullish until, and good morning, Mr. Iglesias. Junior, you're back. This is still bullish until you get the bad news that really makes NVIDIA drop 10% a day, 10% a day. That's really what I'm looking for. Something that is big bar, big bar, big bar, break through this level, start to spread out those Bollinger Bands the other way. Then I'll say that, but can't be too bearish. Now, we did say this is most likely going to be an area where we're going to see some topping because of how Apple's acting. Right? Apple has not participated in this move in the Qs for a long time, and that's what we've been really pointing out. Now we're coming down into an area where we could see some kind of bounce, so this is where we want to be a little bit cautious to some kind of bounce. Mr. Rosales, welcome, welcome. Nice to see the regulars back. Make sure you're liking this stream. Make sure you're subscribing if you're not already subscribed. If you subscribe, a little guy bounces up on the screen. It's real fun. Real fun stuff. Ask Jordana. $111 of you guys today. Can we get to 100 likes? That would be awesome. Good morning. We're coming down into the point where we have to pay attention. We have to see if there's going to be some kind of bounce. If we do not bounce from here, that will not be good news going into Jerome Powell tomorrow. That will be very, very bad news going into Jerome Powell tomorrow. Just be careful out there. Reload this. Some buying power here. Do I do it? Do I do it, guys? No, that's enough. No. We're not going to get too crazy. We're not going to get too crazy. Don't see, even me, I'm hesitant to take upside here. Even though, like, normally if I see something like this on a Tuesday, I'd be like, okay, this thing's at least going to bounce. But This selling off that quick, I have no structure here to tell me that this needs to go up. The only thing I have going for me is a 30 minutes still in positive territory up here, and we do have oversold conditions. So, and it's barely in positive territory. If that wants to load, I already know. Oh, it's actually, it's in negative now. So in the last 2 bars, we've gotten fully into negative territory. So this is where it's a little sketchy, but you'll notice oversold as of right now on this RSI. We could see some kind of hip fire move up and then see that start to break down. But this is very, very good sign that this is topping out. Now, if this wants to be some kind of overreaction, and then we see the Fed kind of save it for a little bit, we can see that. But we just pay attention to this MACD rolling up in positive territory. See if that's able to roll back down. So if this rolls up and kind of goes up to this level, I'd be a little bit more positive still. If this rolls up just slightly and curls right back down. Once it curls down in negative territory again, I think we're taking out this base. Still not in gamma flip on the SPY. Still not there yet. SPY holding up at higher levels, Q's breaking down to lower levels. You guys want to look at NVIDIA for a little bit? Let's look at NVIDIA. So NVIDIA here, this is actually pretty good, okay? So NVIDIA here, you see this cupping right here. We got the cup. Now we'll see if we get some kind of handle to head a little bit lower. If we want to turn around from here and use this as some support, you really need this to fully curl up. So if we flag and this doesn't curl up, we could see that roll back down. But if this starts to curl up over the next hour or so, we actually could see this test this level up in here. Even if I think you overall are leaning towards a lower high at this point with that selling. But there's our green. We're getting green. Meta coming up into my sell point. God, dude, do I just be a good trader and take my profit here? Done really, really, really good today. I've been a very good boy. And 50% on one option. I'm wondering if I should do it. I think I have to, just in case there's some kind of reaction here. Sell out of pretty much everything. Sit cash heavy for a little bit till I see some structure. I still do have a hedge play still out there, so. Yeah, I don't need to go nuts with this one either. I think I'm okay. I think I'm all right. Let's see. SPY forming inverse cup on the 1 hour. Let's go look for that. Let's go see if there's a 1 hour inverse cup and handle on the SPY here. Inverse cup. I really would like that to break down a little bit more to fully confirm that as a cup. I mean, we saw this cup and handling here. This cupping might need to come all the way down to these lows here, probably around that weekly expected move, then see that handle. This is what you're worried about though. Left head, if you come down into this area and create a right shoulder right by the downside of this wedging here, if you start to break through that, that would be bad. Thanks for keeping me out of the weeds. Amazon I already sold out of. I could have made a little bit more money here. A little bummed about that, but that's okay. I didn't take it all the way down to my target. My target 173.12 on Amazon, but I was expecting maybe there's some kind of bounce in this liquidity anywhere in here, so I'll take my profit. What happened to Facebook? Dude, we're just seeing things sell off, but probably because of the negativity behind Meta Platforms insider sold shares worth $15 million according to a recent SEC filing. We told you guys that Zuckerberg actually over the last 2 weeks has sold hundreds of millions of dollars of shares in Meta during this push up. He was selling all throughout this. Your boy Zuckerberg was selling the whole time. You got to keep that in mind. But we're right at my sell area, so I'm going to be a good boy. and I'm going to sell out. All right. And I promise my new camera gets here in like 2 days. I broke my phone. I use it to stream, and I'm very, very sorry about that. I dropped it in the middle of the road and it got ran over by a car. See, this one too, I could have made more money here. So even though I could have, like, that's the bad part about talking like that. I shouldn't talk like that. I told someone yesterday not to talk like that. But you always think like, I could have made more here. But overall, I made good money today. I think I like doubled one of my options. So I'm not, that's why I sold out so fast. It's like, I got a 100% increase in one of my option plays. Yeah, I'm good. 30-minute crossing. I really don't see that cup and handle formed fully yet. I mean, I guess you could say a handle could form anywhere up in this area. A handle could form anywhere up in here. I just would like it to dip down into here. That'd make a little bit more sense. I'm sorry, Sebastian. I don't know exactly what you're asking. I don't know exactly what you're asking from me there, but I still expect some wonkier price action. So I think this move down, we might get a move up now. We're setting up that right shoulder possibly. Maybe we even come and fill this gap first. Then we see that tear down. Billionaire Mind, hopefully that thing about Facebook helped you just a little bit. Looks like there's just some insider selling. Insider selling, not necessarily the most bearish thing in the world, but when it happens as some kind of, when the bad news piles on. So now you have bad news with Apple, bad news with Tesla, I believe it's bad news with AMD, and then you just tack onto that, hey, an insider at Facebook just sold all their stock. Well, now you have all of that negativity built up, and then you're holding Meta, and then you hear that a big guy just sold Meta. You're going to be like, oh shit. So that's how we see it. We can see if Bloomberg's talking about anything fun. And then I probably, actually, let's do our last little breakdown of the day right now. I actually have to get going anyway. So we're going to do a last little breakdown. We're going to go through every stock that we do cover on this channel. We will stick to, let's do a 15-minute chart here. Let's do a 15-minute chart. We're seeing this huge selling come in, no buying in this move, pretty much. Teach technicals. I do have a course, Sebastian, down in the link in the description. It's 50% off for the whole month of March because I believe we're going into a bear market. So we will be probably going into a bear market. We're going to see wonkier price action. That's where my course really, really does shine, when it'll teach you about these indicators, really specifically how to think about them, how to use them, and then also teach you about these weekly ranges, how to use them. And then I also give you a trading strategy that's very, very good for when volatility is higher. So a bear market, it really does shine. I used it before. I made $20,000 in 1 month off of it. So with that strategy, I'm literally giving it to you, and you can get it for $100 in the whole month of March before that increases. Now, as far as the technicals go here, SPY, yes, this is dramatic selling. Yes, it is outside of that daily expected move. So we have to be attentive, because we could land back in this zone like 68% of the time. 32% chance something a little crazier is happening. Now, in order for this to really break down, I want that to get to the weekly expected move. I really want it to get to here and break through this level, because I know that the gamma is going to flip on me, and we're going to get rapid selling. We can see that selling really escalate outside of this weekly expected move. But if we come down into this area and we see a reaction, we could set up some kind of right shoulder, right, and a big left head right shoulder. Maybe that bounce is short-lived and we actually come down to lower levels. So just something to pay attention to. If we're going to go to the bull side 30-minute, look for that to curl up. Qs, we are breaking down significantly in the Qs. We're coming down to the lower point. So we talked about this in the video. If we're able to hold up at higher levels, look for this to possibly turn around. But since we did just break down to lower levels, now we have to say the door is more open to some kind of right shoulder. Now that right shoulder can take you all the way up to this gap fill. Before it wants to come down. You can see a higher up right shoulder, so don't think about that. But be very careful with anything shorting right now, because this is all the options market has priced in, and we're outside of that area right now. 68% chance we land above it. Not saying if you're a position trader like myself that you can hold it for a longer period of time if you have a good amount of expiration. But if you're trying to say, hey, I'm going to short this right now by Friday, well, this would tell you, well, by Friday, you have a 68% chance to land up here. You only have a 32% chance for this to really keep going. So pay attention to that. That's going to be very important. I know this is a good, strong sell-off, but I said that the market most likely will be bouncing back and forth for the whole month of March. Unless we see something break, then we can maybe see that actual crash like Apple. Apple, literally what we were paying attention to early on was the way that it likes to break through zones. These zones are always very important for Apple. We've talked about them ever since I started this channel. This zone here goes all the way back to when I started this channel like 8 months ago or 6 months ago. And the thing with Apple is this would be catching a falling knife. There's nothing here telling you it could go higher. The only thing you have going for you is your weekly expected move. If you do join the Patreon, it costs you a cup of coffee every single month, and that's it. And we're going to break down a lot of these stocks in my video tonight that's on Patreon only. So you do get extra video on Patreon where we'll show you some trade setups with these weekly expected moves. Very, very helpful. My course is a video, Lisa, but I do encourage you to email me, ask questions. If you're part of the Patreon, you can message me and things like that. I want it to be, I try to keep it as simple as possible, really just straightforward. This is what it means. Hopefully that's easy to understand. If there's something you're struggling with, I do encourage you to email me or send me a message on Patreon if you want to join there. So a good way to do it is take the course, then join Patreon, ask questions, and then Patreon, you'll also get those ranges from me, and you'll also get some possible setups throughout the week, one time a week during my video that I put on Patreon. So it's overall, it's very, very good. And it's not like a, I teach it to you and then you're in the dust. No, it's a video one. I teach it to you and then you can ask questions about it. I'm very open to answering that. But Apple here, the weekly expected move, very, very high. The thing you do get on Patreon, that weekly expected move is up in this area. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you that. Now, that means we could get a big reaction to come back up into this area. That'd make a lot of sense, but we already did kind of, and my zone's drawn wrong because I really messed that thing up, but I'll redraw this later. But overall, how this broke down, we break through a zone, we touch in it a little bit, and then we see that breakdown further. So this actually was in our zone. So what could happen from here? We could get a big reaction up to test this zone, but that could also rip us back down. The way that we would head up from here, look for this to react, come up into this area, get some kind of reverse head and shoulders. That would be very, very good for Apple, looking like it wants to get some kind of bounce, possibly before CPI. You know, that would be a big deal. As far as right now, though, it's catching a falling knife. This is the trade that I got out of. Man, could have made a little bit more money, but hey, I doubled this position in one day, so I am very, very happy with that. The thing with this is really paying attention to 173.12 for Amazon, seeing if we can create that good structure going into some selling maybe next week, see some kind of right shoulder form. Really want to pay attention to that. If we're going to get bullish here, this 30-minute needs to turn up. We need to go into positive territory with this. If that's able to happen, so pretty much if this actually plays out, most likely this won't even be able to curl up in positive territory too much, and you'll see that curl back down. So even if you wanted to take a stab at more upside, once that curls back down, it's right by negative territory. You got to get out of that position because you could break the space and start to close through this gap, coming down all the way to 168 as far as next week goes. So that's something to pay attention to on Amazon. Anthony the Great. This selling is related to the reverse repoing away this much. It's bought at 190. I can't tell you exactly what to do, but we're getting into Tesla right now. Let's see what we're seeing here. So getting in at 190, probably looking to play some kind of bounce here. This was the warning of yesterday's video. Was the 2 hour here cross, got into negative territory. Sure, on the shorter time frames, you can see some kind of retest, but you do have that opportunity to keep going. We overall stated this 180.92 pretty quick. Now what you want to pay attention to on Tesla, if it breaks this low, you're most likely going to head towards something like a 154.78. Even if you get a reaction from here and then you see that curl back down again, you can head to that 154. So you really want to hold up at this low if you're Tesla at this moment. You want to see some positivity. You're outside of your weekly expected move. Double check where that is. Oh yeah, you're way outside of your weekly expected move. The only thing I'd say about Tesla on the daily scale is you notice how far away we're outside the Bollinger. We're also far away from these moving averages. We could get a reaction up to retest those before we want to keep breaking down. The time where you want to say, hey, we're definitely going to 154.78 is if this crosses. If this crosses in negative territory, you're most likely going to come down to 154.78 or something like that. Create some kind of divergence, and then we might see a bounce in the future. But for right now, curling over in negative territory, you break below this low, you're most likely going to cross over. That means negativity is there. 154.78, the momentum is down. NVIDIA on the daily scale, mainly just talking about, people saying, hey, could this go higher? Yeah, it can. But overall, is this a good point to invest? You got a topping tail. You're at the top of the Bollinger. You haven't retested these moving averages in a little bit. I would more so look for this to come down to the 20, even come down to the 50. We haven't reacted there very often. I really like this level right in here, 675-ish. See if we get a reaction from there. That would curl down this MACD. If that curls back up, guess what? You have that chance for another move higher. Maybe to test this higher, go make a new one. The main thing with NVIDIA you have to pay attention to this week, 900 is your call wall, and I believe it's 800 is the put wall. Okay, so you literally could get a reaction down to this put wall and then see that go back up like that. So really got to pay attention, but risk to reward perspective, not looking the best for NVIDIA. AMD, similar story, not looking the best for AMD. The only difference with AMD is you have divergence. You have divergence at the same time. So if this really wants to roll over, we can head towards this area. We could come fill this gap even. We could come down to something like a 166, see some kind of right shoulder. Look at that. Wouldn't that look pretty on the way down? So AMD not looking the best, but still able to hold at higher levels. I'd really just be paying attention to my 30-minute. See if this is able to roll up, because this isn't too dramatic of selling just yet. You really want AMD and NVIDIA dropping by like 10%. 5% in a day. That would really start to worry people. But as of right now, 30 minutes still in positive territory. If this wants to curl back up, a good chance you're actually going to make a new high in AMD. Meta, my trade I just got out of right at my... I was a good boy. I could have taken it. I could have got sucked in by my bearishness, but I said, you know what? We hit my white line. That's my sell line. That's exactly what I did. I took profit. I made about, I think, like 40% overall on this big move here. So if I make it that fast, I'm just going to get out. There's no reason for me to hold it longer term, because I think this will be a wonkier price action over time. I could be wrong, and that could come a little bit lower, but we're still within that weekly 483.95 to the downside, 521.09 to the upside. So since we're not trading and like getting a reaction well below this, reacting, coming back down, I'm not expecting that to hold for quite some time. Big thing that we'll have to pay attention to in tonight's video is the VIX. We're seeing that start to wick out as of right now, but we do have, well, we had a buy signal, not necessarily a buy signal. So if you really want to see volatility come back into this market really strong, this crosses, volatility's back. Volatility is back. We're most likely going to see, if this crosses, we're going to see volatility above 20 in the month of March in the next few weeks. So let's just pop back over to the Qs for our last little bit here. We're just seeing on the 30-minute. This is where we expect some kind of bounce. Okay, you don't have the SPY holding below certain levels, like the gamma flip area. You have the left, you have the head. Maybe we create some kind of right shoulder. Maybe that right shoulder is more dramatic and we actually fill this gap. That would be something to pay attention to. But this MACD here, able to get into negative territory. If we do see that roll over, you have pretty much a chance for a lower high, or most likely a higher high as well. So you still could be getting some bigger moves. This is what I was talking about. We could get a move down, a move all the way up, then a bigger move down. We could get a move down, get that right shoulder and come down. So really, I just told you last night that I sold everything because I am utilizing my cash, trying to stay cash heavy so I can keep flipping back and forth on these trades, and right now it's working for me. So really appreciate it, you guys came out. That was awesome. Over 100 people. So awesome. A retired lady that is not great with some of the newer high-tech apps. Hey, that's great. It's just on Teachable, so it's very, very simple, very straightforward. If you want to take it, like I said, the course is 50% off. It's down there in the description right now. And It's very, very good. I had someone who has not traded stocks at all, has never done technical analysis, and she was able to actually, understand a lot of what I was saying. And of course, you have questions, and that's why I don't want to just leave you in the dark. If you have questions, send me an email, join my Patreon, send me a message. What happened today? We got bad news with China. Apple got bad news with China. Tesla got bad news with China. And AMD had bad news. He did have bad news. AMD extended markets leading FPGA portfolio, AMD Spartan Ultra Scale family. Okay, so nothing really with AMD. I think I heard someone mentioning AMD earlier, but the other one that's selling off, shoot, which one was it? Meta. Okay, so Meta, this one here, getting a good reaction here. Glad, look at that. We hit my target. We started to see that positivity. Aren't you glad I sold my position? Now I can see a little bit of upside, maybe get a better position in the future. Good stuff. But Meta actually, so the way that Meta is coming down right now is because we saw some insiders selling. It's like $20 million or something in insider selling. Well, we already knew that was happening. The thing that's making Meta sell off a little bit is the fact that, well, Apple got bad news, is kind of crashing off. Tesla got bad news, is kind of crashing off. And then you hear, oh, your stock that you're holding, a bunch of insiders just sold. That would create a very negative loop in your brain. And so that would cause some people to hit the sell button. So I believe that's the only reason that Meta's really seeing this kind of selling right now. Kind of a mental thing. I think we could come up and fill that gap before the week's over. Holding up in a good area here, right at my sell line. So that's awesome. Hughes, though, we really got to see some strength here. All right, so you got to see some strength. You still have that 68% chance to land in this zone, and it's only Tuesday. It's only Tuesday. So the fact that it's Tuesday, we're already outside of that zone. This is where we really need to pay attention. So if you do join my Patreon, I'm going to be putting out that video where we go through the actual weekly ranges that I give you on Patreon. $7 a month, cup of coffee, and then you'll get a video, and I'll see if there's any kind of trade setups. We'll really just talk about these weekly ranges, what is happening, and if we see any possible setups for Friday close. Okay, so go through some probabilities and things like that. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for joining. We got a bunch of people in here. Thank you to the new people, Jordana and Belle. Thank you so much for subscribing. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It means a lot to the channel. Hit that like button as much as you can. And I hope you guys have all the luck in the world trading today. Be safe out there. We're already out of these risk ranges, so be careful because we could see some kind of bounce, or we could see the selling really start to escalate if the SPY starts breaking below its weekly expected move. So thank you guys so much for joining. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow, but most likely on Thursday, I will have my phone back and we can set up a nicer camera for you guys. Now, the overall thing that you need to pay attention to, we will be live tomorrow. We will be live tomorrow for the Jerome Powell in Congress. Hacking issue. Okay, so a hacking issue possibly. So tomorrow and Thursday, we will be live for that Jerome Powell talking with Congress. So we will be paying close attention to that, and we'll try to really talk through it and see what ideas we can come up with, see how you guys are reacting to that, and see how the market's reacting to him talking, see what pieces they like, and see what pieces they don't like. Okay, so really appreciate you guys coming by. Really do appreciate it. You guys show up every single morning. You like, you subscribe. You guys are awesome. We got some people asking about the course. That's awesome. It is very, very helpful, and really encourage you to join the Patreon because we're putting out that video tonight just for Patreon, talking about these ranges, what we see down in this area. I can be a little bit more specific and see what's down in this area, see if we're going to see some kind of reaction, what the probabilities are to head higher. So thank you guys for joining. Hope you have all the luck in the world trading today. And I hope you have a, well, good night. Peace.